to Contemporary Black Voices, where we take on the most pressing issues affecting Black America. I am your host, Dr. Sharon Michael Chadwell, and with me today are New York Times bestseller Caleb Alexander, as well as author and screenwriter Fred Williams. We also have our fourth panelist today. Welcome back, Chris, community activist and entrepreneur Chris Dawkins. During the 1950s through 80s, TV shows shaped U.S. citizens' perceptions of the ideal family. Shows like the Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet and Eight is Enough. Then in the mid 80s, The Cosby Show showcased the Black family, and in more recent years, Blackish did the same thing. However, the wives in the Black show were able to seek careers away from home and become successful while coming home caring to their families. In the two earlier shows, the wives, who were white, stayed home and did the traditional functions assigned to the wives. Since the pandemic, there is a growing trend in the trad wife phenomenon, and trad wife is abbreviated for traditional wife, where many women, mostly white, are staying home, keeping and running the house, making meals by scratch, making clothes while taking care of the household members. In the Black community, there is a growing number of Black women saying that the traditional marriage is key to Black women's liberation from being overworked, economic insecurity, and the stress of trying to survive in a world hostile to our survival and existence. So the question of the day is, should Black families ignore the inspirations of families such as the Huxtables or push for trad wives to sustain the community? And is the trad wife a realistic desired designation for Black women? And finally, what are the unspoken cons not being considered? So today I have Brenya Samani, a criminal justice and psychologist instructor. Welcome, Brenya.
Hello.
So
Thank you
we
for
kind of
having me.
talk about this topic offline. So what are your thoughts about the trad wife phenomenon?
All right. Can I preface it with
Yeah, go ahead and let everybody
shout
know.
out to all us women? So I have a lot of thoughts about it because I was a trad wife
Okay.
for a minute, and women who worked from home as a trad wife or as also trad wife and mother, not all are mothers.
Mm-hmm.
Their job is a hard job because comparing it to being out in the office with my legal background and my criminal justice background and psychology background, I'm telling you, being a trad wife is a hard job. So I wanted to preface it with that. So anyway, as you know, we have a lot of opinions about that, and also some of the opinions are based on data.
Okay. So this phenomenon of staying at home, and on Instagram, the trad wives are glamorized. They got their cute little aprons, their makeup is on point, their hair is on point, their nails, they're cooking from scratch, they're making cute little desserts, they're even uh, cleaning the house, looking like a model, and their kids are well behaved. But is this a realistic image of the trad wife?
All right. So I forgot to define what trad wife means. And it's not a realistic image because traditional wives who are from the past and now contemporary, they're the ones that run the household, they run the bills, they run the grocery shop and all of it. Plus, they help the life partner with the social that's needed to advance in career, all sorts of things, what the traditional wife does. And trad wife means traditional. The young people have named it trad
Mm-hmm.
wife, and the young people are defined as age 40 downward. And they are awesome at vocabulary, right? We
Mm-hmm.
know this. They're awesome in helping us all to understand the new words that are simple and get to the point. So that's why it's now trad wife. But in answer to your question, no, that's not a realistic view of it.
So these women are making it look like this is the ideal place to be. But there are pros, but there are
Yeah,
also cons.
that's
So
right.
what were your experiences on the con side?
in terms of myself being a trad wife.
Mhm.
Okay, so when I was getting married, I married my college sweetheart, and he was in medicine. I was in law, and so when we finished our university program, we were working, and we were both equal in terms of profession. So then we were having children by choice, intentionality, and so we decided that I would stay home with the children for various good reasons. And so I was excited and happy about it. My extended family was happy about it, and so on and so forth. And so the con is that income's not coming in that you're used to having.
Okay.
Okay. And two, you begin to go into a position, given societal norms throughout the world as a Black woman, into a position of subordination because you're not bringing it up in the money. And that's around the world for us Black women. So that's an odd feeling. That's a con. But more so, when many years later got divorced, I'd like to mention this to you, as we mentioned off camera, that um, the lawyer said, they, she was a trad wife, trad mother, because you agree that should be at home. And my college sweetheart said, no, that was her choice. And I thought, wow, that was my choice. And it made all the difference to the court because it was me, a Black woman's choice, not a, a combined choice, which I thought it was. So that really changed my frame of thinking as a Black woman that, wait a second, yeah, we do have choice. And I had no idea 5 minutes before that it was my choice, not a couple's choice. And that was a big con.
So financially, what did it do to you?
Um, Not going into all the details, but I had focused on the children. So I was able to go back on to my city of choice with the children.
Okay. Go ahead.
Can I ask a question? Especially when you talk about choice, was it a joint choice when the choice was made, but when you got to court, it was your choice?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
That was good clarification. Correct.
Okay.
You know, it seems as though Black women in the professions are taking over. If you look at everything that's happening, just look at the White House, vice president, one of the president's advisors. Then you look at the Supreme Court, and so is this is there a conflict here between this trad wife thing that you're saying that I don't know if you're saying Black women are leaning that way, but I don't see it.
Well, I was talking to my mother this morning about the topic, and she was saying, you know what, baby, I was never a trad wife. She says, well, I take that back. I worked in the daytime. And it was important that we had two checks coming into the house to sustain the family. But I still, when I would come home, I cooked, cooked, cleaned, made your clothes and everything. So you've got in most homes, I would say in most homes, that the trad wife is present, maybe not to the extent that Ozzy and Harriet is, because the wife is working in the house, but there could be some elements, especially if
Yes.
if the function of the house are not shared. It's still on the shoulders of the wife.
That's
Uh,
right. So we're
and
broadening the terminology and the interpretation of trad wife. Because during COVID, the data came out about supporting what you just said.
mm,
But can I make a definition though? This trad wife, to a certain degree, although the term is new, the concept is not necessarily new
No.
because before the ASEAN area, and as Black folks, I can remember a time, at least for my mother and so forth, where the wife could not work.
mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
It was a phenomenon, number one, for the Black man to be able to work. And then when he did work, the wife was at home with the children and she was doing all of those things that you now define as being a trad wife. So even when you talk about your mother, I'm thinking there was a time before that when you really did not have a choice as to whom or what you could be. this is the way it was.
Yeah.
You were at home and you were doing
That's
these
true. However, we haven't changed the terminology. We always have called since Adam and Eve, stay-at-home mom, stay-at-home wife. That's what a trad wife is basically, and what they do. But during COVID, both of yours points, the data did come out within our fields that almost all women, but we talk about Black women today, in particular, because they have a little bit of a difference. That's what we want to focus on. But almost all women were traditional wives or traditional mothers or both at home in all sorts of ways. Would you like me to give a controversial point?
Sure.
Okay, so for example, during COVID, we saw the data that when everyone was home and together, when the husband or the dad say they had children, because not all of them have children, did homework for about 10 minutes with the child, the husband tended to want to have kudos and was given kudos by relatives and friends. And the wives do homework with their children all the time for an hour, for 2 hours, for 3 hours, and they get no kudos. So that is a norm, and that's sort of traditional. That is customary. So yes, the terminology trad wife is something new that I had said that the young people, age 40 onward, have helped us to frame. But it's always been a word since Adam and Eve.
What about this? You mentioned the problem of subordination.
Yeah, I can talk about that.
Yes, please.
Oh my
It-
goodness. Okay, so I'm going to. Okay, I'll talk about that first. Um, because money is powerful, particularly in our country, the United States, and just yesterday, students of mine said, because we're doing careers as a topic, said that because we're a capitalist nation, and I kind of went like this, capitalistic, that has nothing to do with capitalistic, but I didn't tell them that. But they said because we're a capitalistic nation, money is everything. And then others would say, under that frame of mind, which I thought was a little bit wrong, they would say that money gives you everything, gives you your rent payment, it gives you your mortgage payment, it gives you your food from, say, where we live, the big H, your grocery store. It gives you the car payments, the bus fees. And so when the so-called trad wife, children or not, doesn't have the money, who's the source? One person in a household is the source. And what tends to happen for real, given our data, is the source becomes more dominant. And I don't want to go into that topic of the cons of that, because non-dominant looks not too good in many of our households. In some households, it's absolutely fine and it's good and it's wonderful, but in too many, given data being in criminal justice, it's not too good.
So you're saying there's possible abuse in those homes.
Um, and I've stopped using the word abuse. I have a better word: bullies.
Okay,
Instead of saying you're an abuser, you say you're a bully.
duck is quacking, huh?
Mm-hmm.
One more.
The one thing we haven't talked about is I think there is also, we all remember John Lennon, and John Lennon had brought the term of, I forget what he called it, but it ended up being like a stay-at-home dad. So he was doing he was the male version of, I think, what you would call somewhat the traditional wife. I mean, of course, John wasn't doing and cooking and doing different things like that.
He had to be functional.
Right. But I think there's a male version of that.
Well,
as
well, however, the male version of that gets a lot of kudos from who? Blood family, people in society. Like, wow, man, you're doing that. That's pretty cool. The female never gets kudos.
So with that in mind, what we're going to do here is we're going to put a pause in the conversation and come back. I want to hear about this John Lennon bit. I don't. What song was that on?